So we're going to continue to talk about vertex form, but now we're going to write equations. So example 5 says, what is the equation of a quadratic function with vertex -2, 3 and a y-intercept of -1? So over here I've already written down, this is our form that we're trying to use. F of x equals a times the quantity of x minus h squared plus k. That is our vertex form. So we're going to fill in what we know. So the first thing they give us is our vertex. So our vertex is h and then k. So -2 is h and 3 is k. And our y-intercept is -1. So if I were to write my order pair, or my y-intercept as an order pair rather, this would be 0, -1. So if I talk about that in terms of my variables, that's my x and that's my y. Remember, f of x is the same thing as y. So let's fill in what we know. So if we're filling in this equation, f of x or y is equal to -1. That's from here. A we don't know, that's what we're trying to find. Parenthesis, our x is 0 minus our h is -2, close parenthesis, squared, plus our k is this number right here, which is 3. So now we can just solve that for a. So let's do what's inside the parentheses first. So bring down this -1 equals a, parenthesis, 0 minus -2, that's the same as adding 2. That becomes 2 squared plus 3. So -1 equals, so now do our exponent. So 2 squared, 2 times 2 is 4. So I'm just going to rearrange this so that my 4 is in front of my a. And then bring down my plus 3. Now I have an equation I'm just solving. So I'll subtract 3 from each side, which will give me -4 equals 4a. Divide by 4, and -1 equals a. So now we can fill it into this equation. So y equals, my a is -1, parenthesis, x minus my h, which was -2, squared, plus my k, which was +3. I'm just going to make this a little bit neater. Minus a negative is the same thing as saying -1 times the quantity of x plus 2 squared plus 3. This is my equation in vertex form. So another example here, it says write the equation of the parabola in vertex form given the vertex is -4, -1, and contains the point -3, 1. So the first thing we need to do is just label what we already have. So our vertex is h and k. So -4 is h and k is -1. And this time it actually gives us a point, -3, 1. So our order pair is our x and our y. Remember, f of x is the same thing as y. So let's fill in what we know. So y is 1 from the order pair. A is what we're trying to solve for. We don't know that. Parenthesis. X is from your order pair. -3. The formula says to subtract. Our h is from our vertex. -4, parenthesis, squared, plus our k is from our vertex, which is -1. So now we're going to take this and solve this for a. So we're going to start inside our parenthesis. So -3 minus -4, that's the same thing as adding 4. So that becomes 1. So we're going to have a times 1 squared plus -1 equals 1. Then we're going to say 1 squared, 1 times 1 is just 1, a. Bring down that plus -1, but I'm going to make it -1 equals 1. Then we'll add 1 to each side. 1 plus 1 is 2 equals 1a. Divide by 1 and 2 equals a. So now to write our equation in vertex form, we'll go back and fill in what we know now that we know A. So y equals, our A is 2, parenthesis, x minus, h is from your vertex, negative 4 squared, plus k is your vertex, negative 1. So we'll just make it a little bit neater and say y equals 2 times x minus the negative is the same thing as adding 4. And now I'm going to make that minus 1. This is your equation in vertex form. Okay, so this time, at the same direction, write the function in vertex form, but this time they give us a graph. So we're going to have to find our points here. So the first thing we need is our vertex. So that's going to be our top point on our graph here. So our vertex is going to be, looks like right 7 and up 1. So that's our H and our K. And then we're just going to pick a point that goes through this, that touches this graph. I'm just going to pick this one right here. So I'm going to say that this goes through 6, 0. That's our point. So that's going to be our X and our Y. So we'll fill into the formula. So remember, f of x is the same thing as y. So our y is 0 equals, a is what we're trying to find, parenthesis, our x is 6 minus, our h is 7, parenthesis squared, plus our k is 1. Okay, so we're going to solve this. So 0 equals a, parenthesis, 6 minus 7 is negative 1 squared plus 1. 0 equals, so negative 1 squared, negative 1 times negative 1 is just positive 1, a plus 1. Subtract 1. 0 minus 1 is negative 1 equals 1a. Divide by 1, and a equals negative 1. So there's our a. So our equation would be y equals, our a is negative 1, times the quantity of x minus your h, which was 7, squared, plus your k, which is 1. Which if you look at that, that makes sense. Your a is a negative, has to be a negative number, because your graph is flipped upside down.